Today we celebrate the feast of the Stigmata of St. Francis of Assisi. Stigmata from the Latin and Greek meaning wound, scar. On two separate dramatic occasions, Francis had a vision of Jesus wounded in hands, feet, and side, suffering on a cross. If we look carefully at the two visions, we will see them as closely interrelated. Both visions are described in St. Bonaventure's Life of St. Francis. It is helpful to remember that Bonaventure, as a Franciscan theologian and spiritual writer, often described God as a God of overflowing goodness and love. The first vision happened to Francis shortly after his conversion from a rather worldly life. After that experience, Bonaventure tells us, one day, while Francis was praying in a secluded spot and became totally absorbed in God through his extreme fervor, Jesus Christ appeared to him fastened to the cross. Francis's soul melted at the sight, and the memory of Christ's passion was so impressed on the innermost recesses of his heart that from that hour, whenever Christ's crucifixion came to mind, he could scarcely contain his tears. About 2 years before his death, St. Francis had a second vision of Christ fastened to the cross. Here's how St. Bonaventure relates it. On a certain morning, about the feast of the Exaltation of the Cross, September 14th, my birthday, while Francis was praying on the mountainside, he saw a seraph with 6 fiery and shining winds descend from the height of heaven, and when in swift flight the seraph had reached a spot in the air near the man of God, there appeared between the wings the figure of the man crucified, with his hands and feet extended in the form of a cross and fastened to a cross. 2 of the wings were lifted above his head. 2 were extended for flight, and 2 covered his whole body. When Francis saw this, he was overwhelmed, and his whole body was flooded with a mixture of joy and sorrow. He rejoiced because of gracious way Christ looked upon him under the appearance of a seraph, but the fact that he was fastened to a cross pierced his soul with a sort of compassionate sorrow. St. Francis is an important key for us in unlocking the meaning of Christ's stigmata. As many of us know, Franciscans celebrate the Feast of the Stigmata of St. Francis of Assisi on September 17, which is an estimated date of his receiving the wounds of Christ at Mount Laverna in 1224, 2 years before his death. When St. Francis saw in his vision of the crucified Christ the incredible outpouring of God's love, he was inspired to respond with the same kind of overflowing love. St. Francis of Assisi, a saint. How about you?